Thank you for coming. I'm Nathan Fox. I'm chair of the MFA Visual Narrative Program here at the School of Visual Arts. It's a low residency interdisciplinary graduate program in visual storytelling where the students are both author and artist. We're thrilled to be co-hosting tonight's event with our glorious and amazing neighbors downstairs, SVA's MFA Social Documentary Program. Music and story has been on our lecture wish list for quite some time. So when the opportunity came to collaborate with SocDoc, we definitely jumped upon it. And realizing the stream with an episode of Soundbreaking and the visualization of music, we really couldn't pass it up. So as a young kid, like many of my ex-generation, and maybe some of you if you happen to be old or young enough, I vividly recall the day when that famed MTV logo moon landing hit cable television, and when we were all changed forever. The audio was now visual. Music literally jumped out of the boombox and into our boob tubes. Inglorious music video fiction. Empathetically tangible, the floodgates of our generation's sound and beat, good and bad, and Lord knows there were some doozies, opened a new art form and a cultural movement that was unleashed on all of us. The art and sound of classical rock, hip-hop, grunge, punk, death metal, R&B, hard rock, you name it, and many, many more, poured into vision and contributed to the nuclear dysfunctional family. The cult of celebrity, brands, reality TV, boy bands, that all kind of became our religion. You couldn't really look away even if you really tried or wanted to half the time. For me and maybe some of you out there, as basically a chubby, impressionable poser skater teen, all of this completely shattered my safe suburban culture bubble, right? It basically exposed and kind of blew our minds how influential a new medium this was. Being able to finally see music redefined pop culture and impacted us for all the right and wrong reasons, both as consumers as well as the artists themselves. Looking back, I continue to remember why I should probably keep apologizing to my parents for the shit I pulled because of its influence. But I also grew up with a really deep appreciation for what it means for something creative and that passion and that inspiration to be visualized. And it left a very, very tangible and kind of deep love and mark. And taking part in bringing all of this here to you guys tonight is quite an honor and a treat, especially with Mauro and the department. So with that, I'd like to introduce my partner in crime, Mauro Chermayeff. Mauro is a series director and executive producer of Soundbreaking, the co-founder and executive producer at the production company Show of Force, and the chair of MFA SocDoc. Her numerous documentary films and television programs have been broadcast and played theatrically around the world on PBS, obviously, HBO, A&E, TLC, Bravo, Discovery, France 2, and Channel 4 UO, garnering honors, awards, and significant critical acclaim. So please welcome Mauro.
All the students here from my department will, apologize for the fact that I'm limping in, not so impressive. I'm really happy to share this series with everyone and to probably talk more afterwards, after you've seen things, and we can sort of talk it through a little bit than really say too much. This is an 8-hour series, and this is an episode falling close to the end of the series. It's actually falling in the 7th slot of the 8 episodes. But obviously, for many reasons in terms of talking about visual elements of film and music, it was the right piece to show tonight. This series premieres on PBS on the 14th of November, and just after we all find out the future of our entire United States of America. So it's been it's a heavy week leading to a chance to just like sit back and enjoy a musical ride on PBS as long as we're all still here on the planet. Sorry, if I segue too heavily into the election, we might have a problem. So I will stop myself now. But this series is a highly collaborative project. It was a brainchild, I will say, of the legendary producer Sir George Martin, who just passed away in March, who was an innovative and groundbreaking producer whose greatest claim to fame, though he had many others, was producing the Beatles in their vast recording career, which when they stopped performing live, they really became a band that really changed how we all hear music, how music was recorded. And so he really wanted to and was inspired to and came out and reached out to Jeff, my partner, Jeff Dupre, and myself to really look at a series that looked at the history of popular music or the story of popular music, because I hate saying the word history because it's way too encompassing. And anybody who works in film knows that a lot of choices are made and a lot of choices are on a cutting room floor or never considered. So it's always one lens, one perspective, one set of stories, and how you choose those stories is a very complicated process. And then, but in any case, we really wanted to look at music and the story and the cutting edge stories of music through the lens of recording and technology. It's not a performance film. It's really looking through that lens. And we became incredibly excited by that prospect. And in the 8 hours, each hour is broken down thematically. It's not a womb to tomb story. We are not trekking through time. We are really talking about things in a very organically connected way. And we have a lot of witnesses and luminaries, recording artists, producers, that are sharing their stories. And you'll get a sense of that when you understand how the series lays out, which you certainly will from this episode. I think that everyone here also understands that film is a deeply collaborative medium. And in this case, many of the partners on this project, including Donna Shepard, who's sitting here and will be on the panel, as the editor of these projects, is as much a director in spirit than anybody else on this film, because her vision and her understanding of pace and tone and style and music and ideas really makes these shows come to life. And my partner, Jeff Dupre, who, of course, I go through hell and high water with, and Amy Schul, for those who are on in my department, who know that she is a stellar producer and represents on our faculty the real deep dive and delve into the world of archive and other medium as it enters into documentary. Amy is a full-stop genius, and this show is one of her tour de forces, as you will see. So I think we should sort of say sit back and enjoy the ride, because music is a lot of fun, and this episode is fun along with the rest of the series. And I think then we'll answer a lot of questions that may be more specific about the themes and the subject matter as it directly affects this conversation. But then I'm also happy to sort of delve into the other episodes and where we're looking at, and sort of drive everybody to tune in and drop in on the multitudes and myriads of ways that we all consume these television programs now, because I bet about one person in this room will actually probably watch it on air on PBS, with a bowl of popcorn. So I've learned to love the fact that someone might watch this on an iPhone, when in fact it is a multi-million-dollar series that should be beautifully projected and, has been all over the world in some 127 countries now or something. But in any case, as we all know, and as I always say to all my students, many of whom I see, it's all about the story. So this is one that we were able to, really bring to life with very costly music and costly archives and other things that make it just a wham bam kind of music love fest. But on the other hand, it's, it is a process. So enjoy, and we'll all talk in a little bit, and we look forward to answering questions both amongst ourselves and, of course, with all of you. So have a good time for just under an hour. It's called the PBS Hour, 56 minutes and 46 seconds.
Well, that was pretty awesome, eh? Well, wait until you see the rest of it. It honestly is a fitting legacy for George Martin. And in terms of the backstories and everything that goes into where all this stuff comes from, it really is an amazing collection. So please stay tuned. So without further delay, let's get to our glorious panel. And I would like to introduce the moderator for our panel, Rob Barnett. In terms of where he comes from for us as a program, it was great to be introduced to him several years ago, and insane breadth of knowledge and contribution to multimedia. He creates innovative content with many of the best communicators and entertainers in pop culture. He's a creative management executive who worked for 12 years at MTV and VH1 when the music was still there. He's the former president of programming at CBS Radio and the entrepreneur who founded My Damn Channel, the online studio and network from 2006 to 2016. Rob Barnett Media launched this summer, delivering talent, development, and audiences to networks, producers, and brands. So please welcome our moderator, Rob Barnett.
Thanks for coming. I'll ask our panelists to come up too. Please join us. Come on up, guys. There we go. Thanks everybody for coming. I think in the disease called attention span, it's kind of great that we all sat here for an hour. I actually didn't look at my phone, and we watched something really great. So thank you very much for coming. You met Mara, and congratulations on doing this incredible show. On the end, Donna Shepard's an award-winning editor. His work has appeared on A&E, Bravo, VH1, MTV, PBS, HBO. She's been editing films for 20 years, including the Emmy award-winning 10-part series called Carrier that was on PBS, the Emmy-winning Bravo series, Kathy Griffin, My Life on the D-List, and the Peabody and Emmy-winning film Marina Abramovic, The Artist Is Present. Please welcome Donna Shepard. Now, I think that, one of the great things about what we just saw is that it touches a lot on the past. But as we came up with the idea to show this to you guys, we wanted to make sure that we were doing not just the past, but the present and beyond. And that's why we invited the lady in the middle. And this has been really great to get her here tonight. The world of slashes, this lady has a lot of slashes and is one of the most talented people on the scene. Vashti Kola is a graduate of SVA, so let's hear it for that. And then she done good. She made good because she studied film here. But as a model, a director, a designer, a DJ, she moves effortlessly between fashion, film, music, and she became the first woman in history to design a brand Jordan sneaker. She's directed music videos for unknowns like Justin Bieber, Kendrick Lamar. She DJs events for a wide range of clients such as Beats by Dre, Puma, MTV, G-Shock, Chloe, Marc Jacobs, and more. And she even owns a successful clothing brand. So if we can dim the lights, and that's called Violet. If we can dim the lights, we're going to show you 5 minutes of the lady that we're really excited to join us here and talk about, music. So we're going to spend, maybe 15, 20, 30 minutes talking a little bit about how you make art happen and about this episode and about making music happen now. And then we're going to make sure and leave a good 15 minutes or so for you guys. Yeah, so I was at MTV, and a bunch of people are here in the room who were too when we were all music. This is an interesting year to see a premiere of something like Soundbreaking, because I think we've lost a lot of heroes this year. Yeah. It's really different when you see them on the screen in a night like tonight. So I want to start and just go right down the line and ask you guys, who were some of your favorite heroines and heroes that touched you first when you were growing up, musically?
Wow, God, a lot of people. I mean, I was a huge Elvis Costello person, and I still love him. Obviously, I love the Beatles, I love the Stones, I love, I love a lot of singer-songwriters. I really love that whole, 70s period. I love Marvin Gaye. I mean, the thing about me, which was fun about the series, is I love a lot of things. I'm very glass half full. I love a lot of things. And it was a big treat for me to get taken into a part of music and genres of music that were not my thing. Don and I are working on something else, with Kendrick Lamar and All Right, and I'm just like, are you kidding me? I mean, Kendrick Lamar is like unreal. The sampling episode, of this series. So for me, there's not a lot that I don't like, which is a little scary, but I certainly, listen, I had massive albums and, my album collection and how I alphabetized my albums and how it's like literally it was like out of a Barry Levinson film. But I do feel like, and I miss part of that, but I also like to move on. And so I love seeing the things that, I'm way too old. I mean, I do not dance in front of other people. Let's put it that way.
How about you, Vach? When you were growing up, who were the first artists that touched you that, help you self-define as a kid coming up?
For me, I would say Madonna for sure. I mean, I grew up in the 80s, so it was Madonna, Depeche Mode, In Excess, Prince, Michael Jackson. But then, there was also Run DMC, there was Nas and Biggie. So there was many different sides. And I think that the beauty of MTV at that time, too, was that it was sort of like a discovery, like finding all these different artists from around the world and sort of like being just exposed. So it was sort of like our internet, I think.
Yeah, you were binging before we knew that word could mean something fun.
Right.
Yeah.
But one fun thing that I just want to add is like there are all sorts of people that you don't even know. Like if you get into Kanye, which wasn't what I was, doing it before we started this series, then you realize that, Kanye has all these influences. Kanye's going to talk about Gene Kelly. There's the knowledge and the depth of what's gone into the conversation. It's not people that came out of nowhere and know nothing. They know a lot.
Donna, you did such an amazing job putting, in an hour or 50-something minutes. You took us on quite a journey, that went from that Mick Jagger footage, by the way, which I don't know that I've ever seen on Shindig, to Beyonce and everything in the middle. But who were the first couple artists that touched you when you were as young as you can remember?
Well, I have to say that the Beatles absolutely changed my life. When I was growing up, my mom loved music, but it was country music, and she carted me around to all the Grand Ole Opry shows. I absolutely hated them. And now I have like this really deep love of country music. I mean, I love all kinds of music, but I have, and it's like, I wish I could have appreciated it then, but I didn't. And then working at MTV was just like my dream come true. It was like working with music every day was absolutely amazing, and I was really sad when it changed.
I was too. So, Mara, tell us about how this show came together. I mean, it's a massive project. You spoke for anyone that was here at the very beginning tonight about the fact that it's a massive collaboration. So I guess, does it begin with Sir George Martin? I mean, is he the
Yes.
the
I mean,
nucleus of kicking this
It does
off?
begin with him in his inspiration to select the lens in which the dialogue would take place. But, because he's a smart guy and an honest guy, he also was very, very open to the fact that, he died, I think he was 90, I'm not sure exactly, I can't remember if he was 94. When I met him, he was already 91. And he said, okay, like we're going to hit a point, and that point is like 1980. I mean, it was sort of like post John Denver. I don't know very much about it. What I know is that what I don't know is worth talking about. George, very subtly, as he got older, had, hearing, issues. He wasn't immersed in, hip hop. I mean, but he knew we wanted to talk about sampling. He knew we wanted to talk about, about the backbeat. He knew that there was a lot of things that he wanted us to go into that he would not be influential in discussing with us. But I love that side of him. And of course, as we all know, and maybe we'll know more after we all watch Soundbreaking or a number of other fabulous documentaries that are out there in this space. I mean, the work that he did with the Beatles, the work is absolutely groundbreaking and innovative and beyond the beyond. And when you see a photograph, of this, incredibly dapper, man in a suit driving an Aston Martin, dealing with these like 4 crazy guys from Liverpool who nobody was paying attention to until he brought them in and signed them, not knowing that nobody, like that they'd been turned down by every record label in the country. It was a huge part of his understanding of music in a very deep way that was able to bring out especially what John and Paul were heading towards. So the multi-tracking and the layering and the use of classical instrumentation on the Beatles, I mean, that, everything was over after that, and it was a huge turn. So someone who appeared to be conservative and heading in a certain direction was in fact one of the most innovative people around. So our inspiration, of course, hanging our heads low was how can we possibly, live up to this dialogue at a level that will, be impressive or break ground with George and with the people, people that were around him. His son Giles, who's very involved with the series, and is at, is with Abbey Road right now. He's a great producer in his own right. So there was a lot of, trying to get humble before we started getting cocky.
I was lucky because I got to watch all of these episodes, which hopefully you guys will in a couple of weeks on the internet and that thing called TV. So of all the lines that came out of all 8 episodes, there's one of my favorite lines that Jeff Aroff speaks. He's the executive with the big white beard who was responsible for some of the biggest careers in music. He said, "What can we do that's never been done before?" And I think it really speaks to the challenge that every single one of us has in this room, because I think it's fair to say we all self-identify as creative wackos in some way. And so I just want to ask each of you to talk about that, because it seems like, when you're creating something new, whether it's a documentary, all the work that you do, Vashti, now, you're influenced by the past, but you're constantly trying to reinvent. How do you manage that? Who are the people that push you? Do you have teams? I'll ask you. Do you have a team around you? How big is your team
That's a very loaded question. I have a team, and that's, the beauty of the work that I do. It's not just me alone. It's literally about 10 people. One of which is actually here, Guy, who we have co-directed together. He put together that mortifying reel of me, like half naked. And I think that that's like a very major part when creating, art. And, it's just having a trusted team that you work with. And, Guy is someone specific that I've worked with for years. And, with the team that I have like 10 people, social media manager, 3 managers, publicist. I mean, it's like a big team, but, I can't do my job without them. They definitely support me. I'm like the face of it, but yeah, I have a big team, and I don't know if that answered the question.
No, it does. I have to tell you something. I've been in doing my homework, following you on Instagram, and you use Instagram video as well as anyone I've seen. And it's amazing because you're documenting so much. So I don't know if you came in time to see the little clip in their episode about the Beatles where what was said then kind of blew my mind about your day today, yesterday, the third day. They film everything. Like, that's a decision, right? That's a real intense decision that an artist has to make to put so much out there on a regular basis. But do you think it's a demand that the audience now has?
I think that for specifically me and for today's day and age, I think that the way that social media has worked, it's sort of a blessing and a curse in a way. I was really sort of against it when it first was sort of introduced. Like, I wasn't on Facebook and Twitter and even on my website when I finally decided to join all this social media, it was like, the title was Vashti Sells Out, and it was all my links. Like, I just was like, oh, I'm selling out. But, but there's a beauty in it, and I think that that's like the part where you can share an experience or a moment or something. And I find that like with, how fast things are moving, we're losing a lot of information. Like, even me, as much as I knew a lot of things that I was seeing, there's a lot of things I didn't know. And, for people that are younger than us, they're in a great position where they're grasping new and amazing ideas and concepts, but then there's a lot that's being lost. We don't really have like a sort of like an outlet that's really giving you the education. So I don't know. I tend to use my social media obviously as like a very look at me, look at what I'm doing, but I try and share an education into certain things, and I try and give back to the things that inspired me and the artists that inspired me with social media. So.
Thanks. I want to talk a little bit about personas. It's something that really, came through here in this piece. And when you introed the film, Mauro, you talked about how much is left out. How difficult was this for you, Donna, in terms of making these choices? I mean, it really... obviously it feels like you worked in sections, right? You had to have Bowie, you had to have Madonna. Is that how you guys broke this down?
Yeah, I think, the place where we started was who tells the best story. And we had some great storytellers. Jeff Aroff is a great storyteller. Mary Lambert's a great storyteller. And so within the interviews, what great stories were they telling? And that's really where we started. And then that you have to cover Michael Jackson, you have to cover Madonna if they'll let you. You have to cover Beyonce. We try to put Beyonce in everything that we do, just so you know.
We do. We always squeeze in a little bit.
We do. But other than that, it was really what archival clip do you find? So that Rolling Stones Mick Jagger clip was buried in the middle of other things, and nobody had ever, I'm not saying nobody had ever seen it.
Very rare, though.
But
yeah,
it's
very
kind
rare.
of rare.
Yeah,
and
we look for rare things.
Yeah, so, does that?
Yeah. You also had, for people that don't know who he is in this episode, Tom Preston doing a lot of the storytelling, and he refers to himself as one of the 6, but for a lot of years that many of us worked there, he was the guy that really let us do something that not many people get to do these days, which is not have a meeting for 73 hours and try to convince 86 people to do what you want to do over the course of 17 months. He was the guy that would kind of listen to an idea and let it fly. What was it like talking to him? Did you do that interview? Or?
Yeah. No, actually, my partner Jeff did that
Jeff did.
interview. I was thinking, did Warren do it or Jeff do it? I mean, we had to divide and conquer in the sense that we did 236 interviews.
Give people a sense, if you can just freewheel a little bit, because they've only seen one episode of the amount of people that were in this thing.
Oh,
I
the
mean, it's
amount of-
incredible.
Amount of people. I mean, of the 230,
150.
there's 159, I think, within the series. We talked to 236. And those are really well-researched 3+ hour interviews with people. People that were playing live in the interview, people that are just talking, people, you know. So, I mean, in the terms of the people that we talk to, I mean, it just goes on and on from, you know, Elton John to Eric Clapton to Paul McCartney to, you know, lots and lots and lots. You know, Q-Tip, Questlove, Adam Horowitz, Hank Shockley. I mean, like, from every single piece that represents every episode, you know, there are major players all the time. And if somebody, like, simply doesn't really like to talk in that way, you know, we did not interview Beyonce. She does her own stuff. She doesn't really, you know, set out and sit down for she doesn't need to. But she gave us a lot of things, you know, including the music and things that she had, but she doesn't want to sit down. And you realize over the course of, you know, a series of this magnitude, which took, I guess we were really in the room for 2 years, probably in the edit room of all 8, you don't need to talk to everybody. And not everybody is a great storyteller. Their work speaks for itself. So you have to make those decisions too. But deciding what we wanted and not just falling back on, like, well, what Amaro and Donna like, but by the way, that is an inevitable direction because this is a film. We're not here to, you know, make a coffee table book. We're here to drive a story. We're here to look at who's interesting. We're here to follow a narrative that we're telling that's unfolding. And because of the level of these artists, you know, we're talking about clearing this level of music. We're talking about clearing this level of archive, finding things that people haven't seen, or seen less than others, and then also sharing with them the things that they've seen many, many times, but we want them to look at them and see them in a new way and in a different way. And people can be, you know, so surprising. I mean, I love Billy Idol. I mean, come on. It was just, like, fantastic. And I remember those videos so intensely. So, yeah, I mean, we had hundreds and hundreds of hours of archive, and we had to make really big decisions about what was going to go in and what wasn't. And, you know, welcome to the world of documentary. It's like there is a lot of choices, but you have to make choices every day. You have to make choices about what you're going to show and what you're not going to show. You have to make choices about whether you're going to edit 2 frames to the left or 2 frames to the right. It's like you know, a million choices, and you've got to make them.
And there's a lot that did not go in. That's heartbreaking. That you feel bad that you weren't able to work it in, and that is true of every single episode. I think.
And choices around stuff that we were doing that really had to shift. I mean, Michael Jackson's team is very, very sensitive about how Michael is shown. You can't show any parts of Thriller where he's actually become a ghoul. They don't want any imagery out in the world where he, you know, looks like he's gone, like he's dead. They don't want that. They don't want, you know, the list could go on and on of what people change their mind about. And, you know, and some of them are super sensitive and okay. I mean, we had a different Clapton piece. We had obviously his really emotional song about his son. You know, Tears in Heaven is the official title. And it was really great. We had great people talking about it. And he said, I can't bear to go back to that place.
Right.
Can you, I realize it's one of my greatest songs ever, but I would love it if we could do Layla and have a different conversation, because I don't want to have that conversation again.
It brings me to something I want to talk about before we open up for questions. In one of the episodes, in several episodes, because there's a lot of people that are speaking as producers, you spend a lot of time with Don Was, who's one of my favorite humans and someone that we've done a lot of work with. Don talks about something I want to ask you about, Vashti. It's the creating a zone of safety is the way he speaks about it. You know, giving an artist that you're working with as a director a space to fail. Is that important for you? Because it's something that really touched me in one of the episodes. Making artists feel, you know, that as a producer or a director, you're creating an environment that, you know, gets them to take as many risks as possible.
Yeah, I think that's actually, I mean, that's very important. I think that's, you know, just another way of also saying, you know, the freedom of creativity without judgment. And I think that's super important because I think for me, you know, I graduated from here and went on to direct videos and learned that you know, there was art involved, but it was also a business. And there were certain aspects that needed to, you know, be satisfied, whether it was the product placement or the label, what the label wanted and what the manager wanted, what the choreographer wanted. And I found very early on that, you know, it was really important for me to establish a relationship with the artist solely and to really, at any given chance, like really isolate them from their team, because a lot of times these artists, you know, while they're super talented and, you know, creative and amazing, you know, we're all, as artists, we tend to be insecure and have moments of doubt. And so some people sort of, you know, inject themselves, whether positive or negative, they just do. And they sort of lose sight of what they really want to do. So yeah, I think that for me, when I'm directing, I try and, you know, isolate the artist as much as possible and really gain an understanding of what it is that they want to express or share. It was funny because I did the Kendrick Lamar video for ADHD, and the song is about, you know, youth at like a, you know, I don't know, at crossroads and sort of, you know, numbing yourself with alcohol and pills and drugs. And, you know, me and him had a side conversation, and the whole time, like, his team was like, yeah, we want to have alcohol and like pills and parties. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, all right, I guess. And then I talked to him and I was like, so I'm like, you must, you know, do pills. And he's like, no. I'm like, okay, do you smoke weed? He's like, no. I'm like, do you drink alcohol? He's like, no. And I'm like, all right, well, we're not going to put any of that in the video. You know, like, that doesn't represent you. It doesn't really represent what you're, I mean, it had something to do with the song, but it wasn't, you know, the major, like, overarching whatever. But so yeah, so it's like moments like that where it's like you really get an understanding of the artist outside of their team, and, you know.
Yeah, it's good to have a team, but sometimes I think teams are the no police. They're there to say no, so it's good to infiltrate. I think there's, just to let you know, there's microphone that's going to be passed around by this lovely man. Thank you. So we'll do that in a second. And feel free to fire away either on what you saw tonight or on this other idea called making art in the world like these people do and getting paid to do it, which seems like a bit of a miracle these days.
I do want to say also in this series is that we really pay a lot of homage to producers and the relationship that producers have with artists. You're seeing the artist, but there's an entire other art form. And we tell that story through a lot of, you know, different, like, incredible producers. And I really think that, you know, and they've all seen it now and they love it, not because they're looking for the spotlight, but because it's really important to talk about that space that is the recording studio.
It's not a sexy word, but you made process sexy throughout this series, which isn't the way music is usually done. It's usually all done with star power.
And probably least in this episode than some other ones.
Right,
so.
right, yeah. We got a question on this side of the room. When we walked in here, I said this is built like a rock club where there's the pole for no reason blocking half of you. So
Could
we'll
be
go,
the holding up the building, which
or
is
it could
good
be
news
that.
for us.
It could be that, but it's just it's bumming me out. So we'll go back and forth, but we'll start over here.
All right. So I think I started as a question for Rob, but let's throw it at Vashti first, which is, Rob and Mauro and Donna, we come from an era where there were singular sensations that virtually everyone in this country knew, right? The era of Michael Jackson and the Beatles and on and on and on. But there were singular points of distribution, right? If you got on MTV, everybody in America saw you, heard you. So what happens today with discovery and with unity in what become tastes among us all when we're not watching the same thing. And we're all spread across multi-channel networks, right? It's in the stupid name, right? When we're watching a million different sources. How do you become a phenomena today?
I don't, it's interesting because I think that while it seems like it would be harder, it's almost the same. It's like it's easier and it's harder. And I think that as much as I grew up on MTV and I love MTV for everything that it, exposed me to, but it was also very specific to the people that were in the room of the boardroom or whatever, whoever was deciding what the public would see, And it's interesting because, I think about all the artists that probably influenced Madonna, like the artists that she was like growing up around in New York City that never made it. And, I tend to wonder, like, who are those artists? And I think that what's beautiful about now is that while we don't have like one specific platform, we have many different platforms that sort of can decide on like what they think is interesting or what they like. And I think that on top of that, there's also YouTube, which has like been a great source of entertainment or nonsense, whatever you go there for. But I think nowadays it's about finding your own platform. And if you don't have your own platform, right? Like if it's not like you're curating your own space, it's, through Tumblr or whatever, you can go to a site like Noisy or, Complex or something. It's like you can kind of sort of pick what you like and sort of that sphere can kind of decide for you in a way, kind of
And there are enormous algorithms that are deciding what you like, looking at what you like across many, many, many different methodologies and telling you what else you're going to like based on what you like. And sometimes they're right and sometimes they're wrong. But I mean, the most basic concept of like Pandora or something has sent me to all sorts of people that I like based on them looking at what else I'm listening to. So that, those elements are fun too. But it's a full-time job. And there's a lot of stuff on YouTube that's not worth looking at. And there's a lot of acts that make it that shouldn't make it. And there's a lot that don't make it that should make, it's like but the supernovas are still breaking out. And we all know who they are. In the same way you knew about Bowie, you're going to talk about Madonna. You're going to talk about Kendrick Lamar. You're going to talk about Beyonce. They're still supernovas with good reasons to talk about them, and their fan bases are enormous. So that is also, but there's a lot of people we never get to see, and that's been true throughout history.
Let's throw it over to this side.
I loved what I saw tonight, and I really can't wait to see the rest of it.
Oh, good.
Question for you. In the process of doing this, you talked to many people, right? I've interviewed a lot of people. Were there any legendary creatives and visual artists / producers that couldn't even remotely talk about it, their era in making these artistic masterpieces, some of them?
You mean that are not just not good at expressing their own ideas and thoughts? Sure.
That the business of making a visual, because some
Yeah.
of it you guys know more than anybody else, was arduous, and some of it, some people just it burnt the creative soul out of some people,
Mm-hmm.
And I know through my short stint on the planet of being able to watch some of that stuff, there were some really masterpiece moments and cornerstones of visual artistry that I haven't seen as yet to appear again. And I just want to know, like, do some of these people express those things that we see and just can't go back to it? Or were you able to really pick and choose, who you could talk to about it?
Gosh, do you have a thought on this?
Well, having watched like a lot of music videos, both when I was at VH1 and MTV, and then for this, to revisit this, there were some really great ones, and there were some real dogs. And, but, so I feel like that still exists. Like, there are some really great music videos out there. I love that Beyonce music video. I love everything. The first one, Ghosts, I think it's called. Is it called Ghosts?
I don't know.
I think it's called Ghosts. And that director all of his videos are just like, they have this palette that's just fantastic. But I don't think there was anyone that we talked to that just felt burned out artistically. And I think people were excited to talk about it in a way that they hadn't been asked before.
Yeah. I mean, there's some people that don't talk about their own work in a particularly insightful way. I mean, without pointing a finger, Blondie doesn't talk, Debbie doesn't talk about her own work in a particularly revelatory way. She talks about other things, and you can cut it together in the glory of editing so that, she can be an unbelievable voice in a larger narrative. But she doesn't, and many artists don't sit down and talk about their own work, like, this is what I was planning, because also, like, most of the time they weren't planning it, I think. Most of the time it was, like, deeply accidental, came from different relationships. You think, what's new? Well, things are not new. Nothing's really new. Everything's old. Everything old is new again. I mean, if you look at Kendrick Lamar's All Right, which I'm just momentarily obsessed with, so it's like 3 times the charm in my mentioning it tonight. Have you ever seen, like, Wings of Desire? I mean, he's on he's taking something really critical from, like, Martin Luther King all the way to, a really revelatory video, all the way, to Wings of Desire, all the way to reestablishing a conversation about, the word nigger in our society. And it's an unbelievably great piece that comes together that's just like, I can't take my ass off, but I've watched it 20 times in the last, 20 hours practically. I mean, it's like, but I think that, I think a lot of people were also one-hit wonders on MTV specifically, and I loved some of those, Flock of Seagulls, Haircut 100, it's like the Where Are They Now file is deep and thick. Chloe's
Question
not one
over
of
here.
them.
Somebody had one hand up on the side. Thanks.
First of all, I just want to say thanks. As someone who's rescued quarter-inch tape from a dumpster and have had tape shipped from around the world, I know what it's like to really be excited about behind-the-scenes content. So thank you for making this available to people like me who aren't as lucky to have worked for MTV or have been born yet. I grew up in a house where my dad worked for MTV, and I looked longingly back at that time as, he just said he was doing his job, but I thought it was phenomenal, and it was a different world. So I'm trying to unlock that now. I'm a software engineer. I'm trying to replicate that experience with mobile apps, and consequently, I'm working for a TV network as well, trying to build mobile video content. So where do you see the landscape going, especially with people's screens getting smaller and their attention spans getting lower?
Go. Go.
I lost track of what you were saying. I'm kidding. No. I don't know. I mean, I'd like to think that people still care about storytelling and visuals, and I believe that. I do think, obviously the screen literally is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, but I think where I used to see it as a super challenge in a negative way of, like, how do I retain someone's attention for less than 2 minutes, it's now become, like, sort of exhilarating in a way, because now it's really an actual challenge, because now my attention span is, like, dropping. But I don't know. I don't necessarily enjoy the fact that it is going in this direction, but I don't really have much of a choice. I can't really stop the future from happening, and I can only just adapt as best as I can. So I don't know. I think that now, that there still is a platform for, great, again, storytelling through music videos or television, docuseries, all of that.
And everything I do is like 10 hours long, so I'm the wrong person to ask.
That's true. There's a question right here.
Can I have two questions, actually?
You can have two questions. I'm going to check the time.
the
Everybody
first one
okay?
is, it's
We'll
a
go another
quickie.
couple of minutes. I know people probably got to
Beginning
go.
to end, how long did it take you to do the series?
Beginning to end,
I mean, not thought, but like when production started through delivery.
4 years.
4 years?
Yeah, I mean, two in a hardcore way with the whole team on board, but we had a lot of development time of bigger ideas before that. The interviews actually started even before we were involved, because there were the Higher Ground. You see the partnership with Higher Ground, and the conversations with Sir George. They were getting people in the can that preceded us. We have great interviews with Les Paul, B.B. King. I mean, people that are not around anymore, and they knew that. And so they were, they came with a sort of a bowl of interviews for us. And the problem with that also was that they didn't know what the series was about. So interviews with people who have a lot to say, but you're just asking them big, fat, overarching questions is very hard for them. So to cherry pick through those was also rough, because I would love to go back and re-interview Elton John on certain things, but his interview came before my time. So it was like, but the biggest year was what's the story we were gonna tell over 8 hours, and how the hell are we gonna do that? And then, we started editing, and we probably shot for yet another year in the period of time that we were editing, and then it was like another year finishing it, and starting its journey around the world, which actually started in Europe before here. It's been out in Europe for almost a year.
And what about the 40 interviews that ended up on the cutting room floor? What are you doing with those?
In the old days, we would say,
DVD.
DVD extras.
DVD extras. Yeah.
But, they have reasons to be on the floor, but I think that there's worlds in which, in terms of this project, there's massive amounts of material that'll be, online and on sites, and part of, a million different ways in partnerships on distribution channels, where you will see bits and pieces of hours and hours of material outside of what's in the series.
Yeah, one quick piece of information, then we've got two questions here, and we'll wrap it up in a minute. But one of the producers on the series is a guy named Warren Zanes. Warren works for Little Steven's foundation called the Rock and Roll Forever Foundation, and they're actually taking some of this material and turning it into a curriculum that'll be teaching music and music production in schools. We have a question in the front row right here, and then one up in the back.
Hello. So I was curious how you think the art is affected by sort of the new way of things versus the MTV days. I know Rob used to be part of a team, I guess, that picked the music videos that would be on the air. But now that megaphone, as per your question, seems to switch a lot, whether it's a social media network that dies like Vine, or some other new one, or who has the current hot hand, who has the megaphone, who has 30,000 followers on whatever. How much of chasing that do you think affects the art itself? Whereas it used to be just a room full of several, now you have to continuously, pound the pavement just to get two people to pay attention.
Or 2 million, I think that, it's to make things shorter is very different, but I agree with you that it's also challenging in a fun way. There's still, long, form feature films, there's documentary series, there's a lot of ways to skin a cat. But the concept of things getting shorter and shorter, and how people are consuming their content, and what are the demographics of the age groups that are consuming that content, because, the people that are watching television are, I don't think my daughter's 13. I don't think I've ever really seen her watch television. I'm trying to think, and we have a TV in our house. It's like this big, because I just like sit back and like watch everything from like Singing in the Rain to, whatever documentaries are. And she just, flips up the computer. So you have to respect the different ways that people are hearing stories. But I'm 100% with you, and it is the catchword of the moment. But it is. And it's an old word, guys, storytelling. Who are the subjects? Who are the characters? What is the narrative that's unfolding? And if it unfolds in 30 seconds, it still has to be really good. So, you have to keep working at it, and it changes it. It certainly changes The costs are enormously different. The audiences and the platforms are enormously different, but it still gets down to being good.
I mean, Vashti, is the chase a burden? I mean, I think, the question makes me realize that the job used to be create, and somebody else's job was to promote. Now it seems like the job is create, promote, promote, create.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I don't know, I feel like when I'm hired for a job, it's not only to DJ or direct, it's like to also share on social media, it's to record the information, it's to do a million things at once. And I think that, I don't know, it's not something that I grew up doing, like it's definitely like a new form, but it's a part of the job nowadays. It's like, a lot of times a client will ask you, how many followers do you have? And what demographic and all these other things. So, I mean, you have to be smarter and faster, and I guess, I don't know.
If you're playing poker, it's table stakes, right? You got to do it.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean,
We have a question
I
up
have a
at the
partner
top.
now with 120 million social media followers, and when we walked into the room and we took a show, we were sitting with his sheer existence with $15 to $20 million worth of marketing that he was going to provide just by being him. So that's also a huge number, because you got to get people to watch TV. So, but those people that are social media stars are not yet television stars, nor are people looking like, let's take this young, YouTube blogger who's talking about makeup and turn her into, a host on a maybe on an MTV, but not yet on most of the other channels. They want that person to, to share their buzz, but they don't want to turn them into, the faces of their networks yet.
Two more questions.
They
One
will
up,
soon.
one up there, please.
The new president of MTV is bringing it back to its roots and is bringing music back as the foundation. That's what he's claiming. And in terms of they're bringing back Unplugged and they're bringing back music videos, do you guys think that it can be successful?
For anyone that didn't hear it, the question is that MTV has recently announced that after, a couple of decades of not focused on music, now there's discussion and some shows that are starting to come back about music. The question is, will it be successful? I'll answer quickly because, as the question earlier said, for a lot of years there were 6 of us in a room. I was one of the 6 that went like this or this on every music video. It was a pretty heavy responsibility. What happened, and it happened within the first 8 or 9 years, is that videos were not working with Nielsen-rated math, meaning every 3 or 4 minutes you loved what you were seeing, and it was possible you wouldn't love what you saw next. So I was one of the people that sat in a room one day where they closed the door and said, "We're in trouble, and we want to show you, this thing called Beavis and Butthead." And I was the one person in the room that said, "This is the stupidest piece of shit I ever seen. This has nothing to do with the MTV that I work at. I don't want to have any part of it." There's been a rap about music since then, a long time, that music doesn't work very well on television. It's the reason why on the late night shows, you see it in the last 5 minutes of Letterman. So will it work or not on MTV? I don't know, but I think I'll answer it this way. You need now to use all the power of promotion that you've got to try to create events. And in essence, this whole project is an event, where there was an idea to tell a story about music in approximately 8 hours. I think you need events more than you need just show by show by show. It's really, it takes a tremendous, I think what we've touched on a lot in the last 10 or 15 minutes is it takes a tremendous amount of promotion, to break through. We'll do one more question, then we'll just wrap it up. All the way up in the back there, please. And thanks to you guys for hanging in. We started a little bit late, and I appreciate you guys staying.
Good night to everybody. Aside from this film, what projects are you currently working on, like new projects?
Mm-hmm.
And also, are you excuse me. Also, aside from having access to the well-known talent, are you guys currently, how interested are you guys working with new talent?
Well, very. I mean, of course. In terms of the new things that we're working on, I will say that music and the music space, or we'll call it, was somewhat new territory for Jeff and myself, but it's not now. And if you really look at things that have succeeded in long form on networks that I watch a lot of, HBO, Showtime. They are digging in, and a lot of big documentarians that I have a lot of respect for are doing, multi-hour programs, 3 hours on, the Eagles, and they're, the Glenn Campbell documentary was the most successful independent documentary on CNN, in the since it launched its original programming piece. So music is starting to work, and people are also, from a network perspective, digging in and really liking these bigger stories. And so when you have a palette as large as ours in which to show our ability to work within this genre, we have a lot of people coming and talking to us about long and short form. And so that said, we're actually doing another 8-hour series for CNN, original programming, which will come out in the second quarter, say in June, which is actually looking at historical moments, very, very specific events in our history, whether that's 9/11 or Kent State or the assassination of Martin Luther King. And we are making a concept album, per se, where we're looking at that history entirely through the lens of the music that have become the anthems to those events. So that's another series that we're launching on, and we have individual artist pieces that we're doing as well with Stevie Wonder, that's other people that I want to spend the rest of my life with.
Vashti, can you touch on new artist discovery for a minute? That'd be really helpful.
What do you mean?
How do
I discover new artists?
How you open up your radar and how people get on it.
I think that it's easy for anyone to sort of feel like they know, like we know everything, right? Like, oh, you can't teach me anything. And I think that I learned very quickly that sort of thinking does a disservice to you, to anyone. I mean, old or young. I'm always open to, discovering new artists. And I think that that's what's really just kept me sort of super relevant and super engaged, because I'm interested generally. So I mean, I'll go into like a juice store and I'll ask the staff, like, what are you listening to? Like, what do you really like? And kind of gauge people as I meet them. So for me, it's really through organic conversation, one-on-one, meeting people, talking to people. I sometimes go through SoundCloud and look for music, or, it's really through word of mouth with my friends also. I have a lot of trusted sources, which I can expose if you like, but I don't know, I like what I like, but I'm also now realizing that, like at any given moment, you can either be Blockbuster Video or you can just keep growing. It's like you sort of have to be willing and open and interested. So yeah.
But the next generation is very obviously important to me. I mean, we created the department here to bring the next generation of documentarians forward, to have young people, and even if they're not necessarily so young, but they're new to making these films, we obviously really believe in that. And anybody who is not here, that's not in my department, that's interested in that, they should certainly take a look at the master's level in social documentary, because I care about that a lot, and we care about it a lot in our company. And there's a lot of Donna and I spend an enormous amount of time not just listening to the young people, but giving them integral ways to grow on our projects, because it's hard to go out this door and get this kind of backing and support. So when we bring people in, and there are a lot of them working on all of our projects, we really give them a voice. And we also work very closely with with our students and where they're gonna and how to bring them forward as storytellers, because we really do believe that you can put anything on YouTube, but it doesn't mean that it's good. There is a core understanding of how to work within the medium and how to find your own voice within that medium, and it's a lot of work, but it's these are not there are very few people that you see out there that are just overnight sensations because they make one thing. They're not. They turn out to be far more storied than you thought when you start digging in with them on what they've been doing. And young people are out on the scene. I mean, I can't even make it from my chair to here without a bad limp. So I have to count on other people to be smarter than me and more inventive than me, and that's I'm working with Donna. She's changed my life and my work, and it's like these are you got to talk to other people. Keep your ears open and listen sometimes more than you talk.
I like the idea of ending on access. So Donna, tell people where they can find you and learn more about the work that you're doing.
I'm at Morrow's office every single day. I do want to say, though, I just want to say, I don't know if we answered your question correct. Okay, good. I just want to say that teaching has more influence on me and my art than almost anything else. You, my students, influence me beyond what you actually know on a daily basis. And just conceptualizing and thinking about the process and the feedback I get from you is immensely life-changing. So I just want to thank you.
Where can people find you, like I've been doing?
Right up there.
Oh, they
there
did
you
it.
go.
Look at that. They did it.
Go.
Wow. Thank
Yeah.
you, guys. So it's there. So listen, thank you so much for being here and talking about art and music and creativity. And please, please, don't even think about finding an excuse not to vote on Tuesday. Thanks for coming.